The St. Louis International Film Festival, St. Louis Filmmakers Showcase is next week here in St. Louis. And one film caught my eye, then Joy's eye, and we beg to have Jun Bae join us today, a student from Washington University, and the director of the film called Bob's Tour. There's Understanding What We See. And it's about us. It's about St. Louis.
Understanding What We See. Okay, what is the actual title? Is it A Tale of Two Cities?
The Tale of Two Cities is part of a larger, I guess, umbrella term for the documentaries that I've been working on, specifically about the divided city of St. Louis.
Yes.
And so that's kind of, I guess,
and where does Exodus come into that? You have another doc called Exodus?
Yes, that would be also showing at the Tivoli Theater on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock.
This Sunday?
On the 17th.
Okay, I don't even know. I don't know anything about Exodus, but I watched the Bob's Tour.
Oh, okay.
Which is all about our city, our wonderful city of St. Louis. And he says things like, at one time, and we all seem to know this, that we were the fourth largest city, and we were going to be like the capital of the United States, and it was all posed for greatness, and instead it went the other way. And his theory as to why this happened.
And this film does a great job of documenting Bob Hansman, who is a professor of architecture at Washington University, and you were not his student?
I wasn't actually part of his students. A lot of the students at the school take this class called community building, which the bus tour is, a lot of it is based on. But I took the Denise Ward-Brown's class, who is also working on the divided city, and she also makes documentaries. So she organized a bus tour just for our class, and that's how I got to know Bob. And then slowly I started just going to the tour because he does a lot of them.
June, this is your first full feature documentary.
Yes.
And it is so well shot. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
What a great job on it. And what you do is document this bus tour that Bob Hansman gives to his students every year.
Yeah, so he does, during the community building, he takes his bus and then he goes all over the city, including Ferguson, Wellston, all these different places. Yeah. But he also does a bus tour for the faculty, also visiting students from all over the city, all over, I guess, the country. Yeah. Even people, I guess, from, I think one of the reporters from somewhere in Europe also came to do a tour as well.
What he's basically trying to say, I'm summing this up, is that all of this problem, the problem is rooted in a racial problem. That when the black people came from the South up to St. Louis as the promised land at that time, then, they were still compartmentalized, and their white flight, and then it was, great wealth in the county and really poverty, a bad poverty situation, which still exists today. And he's showing that with the Ferguson thing that's happening and how things...
They're all tied together. That's the amazing thing about it. Yeah. Now, having come... from you grew up in Japan. I know you're Korean, but you grew up in Japan.
Yes, I'm born and raised in Tokyo.
But then you come here as a student. You must view this in a much more objective way than we possibly can.
I wouldn't say that I have a more objective view or anything like that, but I would just like to say that when I first came here, I didn't really know much about St. Louis. I came to Washington University, and even part of the school, they try to, I guess, discourage you from exploring the city as
don't go there.
That's exactly
don't go
right.
north of Del Mar is
there you go.
that happens, and I'm sure it happens in a lot of the cities as well, parts of the city of St. Louis. And so I didn't know really about St. Louis until all the Ferguson things happened in 2014 in fall, and that's when I started to do a little bit of photojournalism as I guess a way for me to respond to the situation that was happening, and that's when things started, I guess, my eyes started to open.
And what was I thought really telling about this is how Bob said in the film that so many people came into the Ferguson situation with decorating as their way of making it feel better for them.
It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid.
Exactly. And it wasn't doing anything to address or acknowledge the real issue. It was their take on it that doesn't, really help anything. In fact, makes it worse.
This is a spoiler alert, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I think it's extremely impactful in the film that at some point, and Bob is showing North St. Louis, and he's right in Pruitt-Igoe, where Pruitt-Igoe used to be.
And it was Pruitt and Igoe.
Yeah, and the whole story behind that was really great. He says, during the day, you're at Washington University. Then we all go home. When I go home, this is where I go. He actually lives.
He moved there.
He's white,
yes,
but he lives in that area, and he's lived there for a long time.
And he adopted a black gang member.
Yes,
and raised him as his son.
Who is now married, and he's now
and has a grandson, and is experiencing all those racial issues, racial profiling all over again. And then we say it doesn't happen, and yet his son moved to I don't know nowhere, and he got stopped 5 times in 1 week or something for no reason, and he moved back.
But you know, June is here and Bob isn't, so let's talk about June.
You know what, June? I'm surprised that you didn't go on YouTube or something. This is a horrible thing, but if you Google Gangland St. Louis, all this YouTube stuff comes up of all this horrible gang stuff, and it makes St. Louis look like it's like #1 for gangs.
Yeah, I think that's just one of the, I guess, misrepresentation of St. Louis. A lot of the times, highest crime rate and all that stuff always gets St. Louis on the map. Murder rate, which is true, but there's also
there's that.
There's that.
There's always the other side that doesn't get told, and so I wanted to, I guess, give an overview of St. Louis from the perspective of someone who didn't know anything about St. Louis. So I wanted the film to be something, I guess, an introduction to St. Louis.
Yeah.
That also for the people in St. Louis as well, because I feel like as I was making the film and talking to a lot of people in the community, there were just, like Bob says, non-intersecting bodies of knowledge between different communities.
Yeah.
And so through the film, I wanted to connect those two.
I found it interesting that you did not use a convention that gets overused in documentaries, and that is the person just on camera talking slightly off camera to help the narration along. Not at all necessary in this film. You truly documented what Bob does.
Yeah, I just thought that it wasn't necessary for me to do, the talking head, kind of a conventional side, just because of how Bob manifests his life through his bus tour. He's really committed to doing the bus tour, and not just the bus tour, but, how he became to do that. You'll see in the documentary about his life, a lot of struggles. He had cancer back in the days, and he was an artist,
add to the story.
Activist. And
the story of his art is amazing. That alone is worth seeing this film. How this man expressed himself with art and didn't really do it to make money, and then started making money. It's incredible. It's an amazing story.
What is the second film that you talked about in the beginning?
Exodus. Exodus is about eminent domain in St. Louis.
Oh.
It's about the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency moving into
I want to see that.
St. Louis Place neighborhood.
I want to see it. So we can see both of these films on the same night?
No, one's Saturday and one is the 17th.
So Bob's tour is on the 17th.
Bob's tour is on the 18th.
Exodus is on the 17th at 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. at the Tivoli Theater on Del Mar.
Okay.
And on the 18th, this is a Monday night at 7 p.m. is Bob's tour.
Exactly. And that's on the south side of Del Mar, so you're allowed to go there.
Everyone is invited.
Well, that's a great way to experience these things without actually having to go on the tour.
Oh, it's this really this is a must-see film for anyone.
It is very good
in St. Louis. It's called again Bob's Tour: Understanding What We See at the St. Louis Film Showcase or St. Louis Filmmaker Showcase. One last thing: who did your sound? Your sound on that film is extraordinary.
The sound was done by Dan Gillett. He's one of my good friends, and he's a local here. And
tell him he's good.
Oh, okay. I will definitely let him know.
I mean, everything is good on it, but the sound is exceptionally good, which is rare in a documentary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me.
And
appreciate it.
To our Clayton's Bakery. Our segment is made possible through their generosity today. Clayton's Bakery and Pastries in De Pere, offering fresh-made baked goods using recipes from St. Louis's earliest history and fresh baked bread right from the bakery. 11,744 Manchester Road in De Pere.